Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Rehab with Roni podcast. I'm Roni, and this is my podcast. And today is an episode that was highly requested. And by highly requested, I just mean that I did a little poll on the Instagram stories and I said, hey guys, what should I podcast about next? And overwhelmingly, the write in was tips for new grads, advice for new grads. What should I do as a new grad? So, without further ado, let's get into it. When I think about advice that I would give myself as a new grad, two things come to mind. There's like two camps of thought. Number one, things that I would do again, things that I think went well for me, that I would be like, let's run it back, let's go again. And then number two, things that I would do a little bit differently. And I guess I'm not that far removed from the new grad life. It's only been a little over 3 years since I graduated, but I feel like the landscape changes. And as you age, it's easy to look back on things and a little bit through rose colored glasses. It's hard to remember the feeling of initially coming out the gates as a new employee at a PT company and what exactly that feels like, because in retrospect I know everything's going to turn out okay, but I also understand that in that moment in time you're freaking out a little bit and you're not exactly sure where to put all of your efforts mentally, emotionally, like what should I be investing in order to make sure that this is the most seamless and smooth process. So I don't know, hopefully this helps. If not, so sorry. If I had to put them in order of most important, I would say first thing to ensure that you do is find a mentor. And before I go any further, I guess I'd like to say I'm sure a lot of my listeners are not new physical therapy school graduates. So, in order to appeal to the masses, I do think that this could apply to any new job and any situation. Whether you're a nurse, a personal trainer, whether you're a contractor, a real estate agent, it doesn't really matter. The underlying theme remains the same. You need to find somebody or a group of people that are more so experts in the field that you're entering into. And for me, this looked like working for a big company and entering into their mentorship program, which fortunately for me was a great program. Not only was I paired with somebody who was a seasoned clinician, I think she had been out for about 3 years, 3 to 5 years. And I would get to hang out with her every 2 to 3 weeks. I would go hang out with her at her clinic, or she would come and watch me treat. We would talk over difficult cases. And then on those off weeks, I actually met with a group of people similar to me that were working for the same company. It was almost this cohort of new graduates or people that were new to the company. And every Tuesday morning, I think once a month, we would get together and whoever was leading it would say, okay, guys, we're going to go over all things shoulder, or we're going to go over all things SI joint pain. And let me tell you, that was so, so helpful. Was it extra work? Yes. But I really enjoyed the break and I enjoyed the continued education because no matter what field you're in for work, you don't come right out being an absolute expert unless you are just a genius child, but that's not me. And having somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, having somebody that you can, oh, hello, puppy. Oh, gosh. Okay, my dog is going to jump up on my lap in 3, 2, 1. Hello. He hopped on my lap because he knows how good it is to have a mentor, and he's just here to support that entire idea. I'm going to take a picture of this. This is so funny. Okay, anyways, where were we? Mentorship. Okay. Having somebody that you can refer to in times of uncertainty, whether that's with patient care or whatever else you're doing in your career, is just so helpful. And it's also humbling because you are actively recognizing that you don't know everything and that you need help. And I think that's key. That's important. As healthcare professionals, we like to think that we can fix it all, but the reality is we can't and we don't know all of it. And so we need those guardrails, we need that support group, and I think it's crucial. And if the company that you're working for doesn't have a mentorship program or you don't know somebody that is an ideal mentor for you, I think there's other resources. I think there's other ways to get around it without doing in-person meetings or workshops and that kind of stuff. I mean, just think about all the probably at this point millions, maybe billions of videos that are uploaded on YouTube. Think about the community groups on Facebook and I don't know, find a good subreddit group. There are resources out there on the internet if finding an in-person mentor isn't for you. But either way, I think it's crucial and it's definitely my number one piece of advice. Secondly, I would say be a curious listener. And this is one that I was not fantastic at immediately as a new grad. And I wouldn't even say that I'm fantastic now, but it's a skill that I'm actively trying to cultivate because patients in an initial evaluation will tell you a lot. And just by allowing them the space to speak and tell their story, you will learn a lot more than asking these directional questions that lead them to answer either yes or no. What I mean is, say somebody comes to you with, I don't know, low back pain, and you're sitting there while trying to active listen, also forming some hypotheses inside your head about well, this could be one, this could be number two, this could be my number three thing that I think it is, whatever that is. And let's just say you think it's a disc herniation. You could find yourself asking questions, yes or no questions that would lead you to that conclusion rather than just letting them tell their story and asking these open-ended questions. Does that make sense? So, some things that I've started to implement now are what do you think is going on? Or what do you think started all of this in the first place? Cuz sometimes they just haven't thought about that or they have and they're eager to let you know. Either way, it's good, valuable information. I'm sure we've all heard the old saying, you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. We're designed to be listeners first and educators second, I guess. I just came up with that on the fly, but while of course we're educating our patients, we just need to hear what they're saying first. And I know that this sounds really vague, but put it into practice. Try not to rush the evaluation. Try not to put words in their mouth and just hear what they're trying to say. Because one too many times I've heard of patients who went to providers and tried to get the care that they were searching for, but didn't feel like they were really listened to or acknowledged. Their concerns weren't addressed. So don't be that person. Be a good listener and repeat back to them what they're saying at the end. So say they're finished telling their story and you've been talking for 20 minutes and you go, okay, so basically this started 2 years ago. It's been going on and off since X, Y, and Z. You really feel it when blah, blah, blah. Tell the story back to them and they're gonna be like, wow, what the heck? What a great listener. I feel so heard. I feel so seen. Okay, you guys get the point. Another vague one coming at you from the left field. Be a lifelong learner. Oh my God, Ronnie. Okay, I've heard that before. No, I'm serious. It's so easy. Trust. It is so easy to get into this pattern, to get into a groove, and you're feeling good about your caseload. You're seeing three people at a time. You're like bada boom, bada bing, and you're not actually thinking that critically about what you're doing. And maybe you're giving the same like 8 to 10 exercises for every low back pain patient you see or every shoulder patient you see. And to an extent, that's fair. And you could argue that these are great exercises and this is necessary for all of these different impairments. However, that starts to hinder your desire for learning. So I recognize that in myself as a new grad. After about a year in, I totally could time manage the shit out of my day. I was like, I am documenting, I am seeing multiple people at a time, I am crushing life, but I wasn't necessarily going home and doing any extra research or thinking outside the box with certain patients that maybe weren't progressing the way that I wanted them to. And that's on me. And I totally recognize that. And I also recognize that depending on the setting you're working in, you might not have the opportunity to take the time to critically think through every decision that you make with a patient, but do your darndest and stay mentally stimulated with continuing education classes. When I was working for my big job out of PT school, I'm going to call my clinic is my little job because it's just me, but my big job, I took advantage of so many continuing education classes because I loved it. It reinvigorated my love for the field and it gave me new angles to play with patients and I could come at things with a different perspective. I loved it. So be like that. Don't be a loser and not ever yearn to learn yearn to learn any other information once you throw your hat up in the air on graduation day. Plus, as a bonus, your patients will be a little impressed when you say, recent studies have actually shown that blah, 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 blah. And you're not even faking it. You really did just read a study or you really did just learn this thing. But they like to know that they're really cool, awesome PTs on top of the research. Okay, moving on. Next little piece, I'd like to just touch on avoiding burnout. And I can't just say, hey guys, as new grads, just avoid burnout. Just avoid it. Good luck. Yeah, we need some tactical things to implement, right? Because I think everybody's afraid of burnout. Everybody knows about it. It's like the phantom of every PT clinic. It's like burnout, burnout. Are you burnt out? And sure, I'm sure anybody in any profession gets burnt out at some point. So you're not unique in being afraid of being burnt out or feeling that way. But in an effort to try and curb some of those side effects of high volume outpatient clinics or no wherever you're working and feeling burnt out, there's a couple things that I would do. Number one, prioritize documentation. And I know even just saying the word documentation makes me want to vomit a little bit like documentation. Why am I even saying that word on this podcast? I don't want to. But prioritizing it during your work hours when you're getting paid is going to improve your life tenfold because I got really good, and I will pat myself on the back for this, at documenting while talking to the patient, while treating, while running around like a chicken with its head cut off. And it improved the quality of life that I had at home, right? Like we have our work life and then we have the rest of our life. And when documentation is infiltrating every other pore of your life, every other aspect of it, it sucks. And you feel like it's always hanging over your head and nobody wants that. So do whatever it takes to get good at that. And if you're not a good multitasker, become one. I think anybody can refine that skill and get better at it. But really, overall, just don't let it take over your life. And if the notes are taking you forever, you might be writing too much. Be clear, concise, and to the point, like professional, but don't. The patient might tell you a story, but you don't have to write the entire story out. Just give the Spark Notes version and be medically correct. Secondly, I think it's important to have fun. There is another generalization for you guys. Have fun. Avoid burnout. Have fun. With your coworkers, though, or your patients. I don't know, whatever your vibe is. But if you're just going to work and you're working your butt off and then you're going home and your work and life are totally separate, that's okay. And I understand that this totally also depends on your coworkers. If you're not a big fan of them, don't force yourself to hang out with them. But I had a fun clinic director, and he liked to go to this tap room and get beers, and we would kind of just like shoot the shit, and it takes the edge off. Literally, the beer does, and, and so does and so does just that camaraderie. I don't know, we had fun company parties. We would just do different things throughout the year that we would look forward to. We did certain things for the community and that kind of stuff. It's a step away from the mundane routine aspect of clinical life. And it gives you things to talk about at work and things to look forward to. And you guys don't have to be best friends, but make an effort to try and do something fun if they're people that you vibe with. If not, I don't know, maybe get a different job. My last little bit on avoiding burnout, I would say really be upfront about your schedule expectations. And this works both ways because the company that you work for is going to be upfront about how many patients they expect you to see, what productivity is going to look like. And that makes sense because they're a business and they need to operate and make money. But on the flip side, I think that there can be some ebb and flow, some compromise. You let them know, hey, yeah, sure, I'll see these 12 patients a day, but I don't want to be tripled. I don't want 3 people at the same time coming in, all expecting to hear from me. So unless the world is on fire or there's an emergency, or, obviously be flexible, but really under no circumstance am I going to be tripled unless XYZ. And that was my stipulation. You can have your own. Having a little bit of autonomy over your schedule where it's warranted and allowed within whatever company you work for is going to make you feel a lot more in control of what's going on and hopefully avoid that burnt out feeling. Because when your schedule is ruled just with a strong hand by corporate America and you don't have a choice in it at all, you're going to feel like you're sinking and it's not going to be a good time. And I hope that doesn't depress anybody who hasn't started working yet, but really just be upfront at the beginning. Say, hey, I'm cool with this, but I'm not cool with that. And can we talk about this? And can we negotiate that? And that's the way to go. But like on a closing note with the burnout thing, I do recognize that the setting is everything. And fortunately for me, I think I had a pretty good setting. I was still probably always fated to end up doing my own thing. I'm not sure. Maybe put me in an alternate universe and maybe I would have worked my way up to CEO at a big company. But I think it's all going to be very individual experience based. It depends on your coworkers, it depends on your manager, it depends on the patient population you're seeing. You have to find what makes you tick inside, what gets you motivated to go to work and do a good job, and what fulfills you. So, as much as these tips and tricks maybe helped me, you could be wired a completely different way. But if you've done all of these things and you're still feeling burnt out, I challenge you to think about just the long term plan. Like, do you see yourself doing this in 5 years, 10 years down the road? Or do you need to make a shift? Because as a young person, if you're going to be making a shift, now is the time. Later is probably not the time. Later is possible, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult depending on your life circumstance. So that's all on that one. If you're feeling burnt out after all that, hit me up with a DM and we can have a little personal chat about it and I can console you, maybe, potentially, maybe not. And for my fifth and final little tidbit of advice, I would say discover your niche. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know if it's niche or niche. Niche or niche or niche or niche. Just kidding. I know it's not that. Ugh. I always am self-conscious when I say it, but I say it and I mean it. You are going to start out as a general physical therapist, whether you work in neuro, pediatrics, pelvic health, orthopedics. You're going to try and see everything that you can and treat everything and know everything. But as the years tick by, you'll start to hopefully recognize a pattern within yourself. Like, hey, I think I really enjoy working with this patient population and I like this type of athlete. And that makes it more fun because if you can sort of market yourself that way, those types of patients will find you, you'll find them, and then you'll be more invested in your workday and your schedule and kind of what's going on and more excited to see these people and help them get back to whatever they're trying to get back to. For me, that was definitely weightlifters. I fell in love with weightlifting probably 5, 6 years ago. And luckily, Chattanooga, where I live, is a pretty active adult population. And so I got to get exposed to a little bit of that and got even more into it and took different classes and just really weaseled my way down that wormhole. And that got me excited. And honestly, that is one of the strings that strung along Rehab with Ronnie and made it into what it is today. I didn't know that at the time, but that is the case. So whatever it is that interests you, and it doesn't even have to be certain patient populations or body parts. I mean, it could be, I really like the sales part of being a physical therapist, or I really like patient communications, or I don't know, whatever it is. I have this great idea for this new rehab tool that should be on the market, but it's not. Just try to be creative because that's going to keep your mind stimulated, right? Because we are, after listening to this podcast, curious listeners and lifelong learners. So this is going to keep your brain moving and the juice is flowing and you're going to be like, okay, wait, I really like this. What more can we do here? How can I see more of what I'm seeing? Does that make sense? I hope it does. I think that basically concludes my pieces of advice. If I could go back to 2022 Ronnie and tell her to do anything differently, Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I would say to do anything differently. I'd be like, hell yeah, girl, start that Instagram account. Who cares if you get 4 likes and two of them are your parents and then the other two are your siblings? It's fine. And I would probably tell myself to keep learning as much as I could and work on being an active listener and don't be afraid to bet on myself. So I hope that this has been helpful. If it hasn't, I'm sorry. But I know that being a new grad it's a little bit of a whirlwind. You don't know really what your salary is supposed to look like, what your day is going to look like, how you're going to like the job. But just know that if it's not something that you're vibing with, it's not permanent. You are the person who decided to apply to physical therapy school, get in, go through it for 3 years, graduate, apply for the job, and accept it. So you've gotten yourself this far. If it's time to course correct and do something different, you can do that too. If you guys have any other questions, send me a little DM, send me an email, shoot me a text. I like hearing from you. I love being a physical therapist, if you can't tell. And I love doing this podcast. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.